But from a personal standpoint, I look at whether someone is building a sustaining business. And when I was on the executive committee of a venture capital firm, that was one of our key criteria, that they weren't looking simply to sell and get rich quick. It wasn't the greed factor. They were looking to build a sustainable business, which we interpret to say in 5 to 7 years, we will be able to sell at a premium because it is a sustainable business. It's not a one-record wonder like we used to have in the 60s, if you remember those one-hit wonder. Well, I'm sorry, numbers from the 60s. We're the old fogies. The one-hit wonders, we used to kid about that. People that have one hit and then they die. Sustainable businesses are still the best value generator, the best thing that venture capitalists and angel investors want to invest in. Something that is clearly sustainable, reproducible, scalable, so that they can just help write it up. And if it is such, it's easy to get funding, to transition to a family member or whatever, and buy back out those venture capital people that have put money in the first place.
Yeah, well, let me amplify that a little bit. The last company I dealt with was SI International. It was synced on the NASDAQ exchange. We had the concept of buying companies first and integrating. We would not buy a company unless it was sustainable. Because what we looked at is the IRR, the internal rate of return, which meant that we had to have a pretty good gut feel with our various investment advisors that after we bought it, it would still be generating revenue even if we were integrated into us, and profits well out into the future. And when we had this offer from this British company and sold to the British company, they looked at our sustainability into the future. So the exit plan, in some cases, becomes an accident of just being sustainable, not an effort unto itself. Because if you have something that's not going to survive the year, you're not going to be able to get any money for it.
I'd like to speak to that too. Your question was, you start a business to get out of it, to leave it in a few years.
That's kind of a theme that I'm hearing.
But I'm going to give you the opposite of it. If you have a bright idea and you have the passion for that idea and you're an entrepreneur, you have to find the money somewhere to get started. But your idea is to build a good idea. It's not to sell it in 5 years or 6 years. If you actually have something that you built, sustained, and grow, that exit strategy is a later part of what you're doing. We were in our business we started, we sold after 22 years. When we started it, we weren't thinking how to get out of it. We were thinking about how to grow it,
Sure.
how to build it, how to maintain it, how to finance it internally. We didn't put a lot of cash into it. It was a people process. When you got the contract, you hired the people.
But cash was no salary for a year and a half or whatever.
We went 9 months without a check. We were lucky enough that we had some equity in our home, and our children learned very well, we can't do that, we can't afford it. They're awfully careful with their money all these years later. But I don't think you have to have the exit strategy if you have the passion for what you're doing. Yes, you got to be thinking somewhere, but you're not building the company just so you can sell it. You're building it because it's what you want to do.
Unless you're going to the venture capital guy, then you got to give them the story they want to hear. And that's a different matter.
That's a different
question.
In fact, it's not an exit strategy, it's a strategy for value creation.
Correct.
That's really what an exit strategy is a shorthand and can have a whole kind of wrong.
You want to go somewhere with it. And yet, we knew our kids didn't want it, so it was perfect obvious, but you got to go with it.
Well, in fact, there's a couple reasons for doing that. First of all, if you've got a long enough time, you want to be able to monetize and take some money off the table at certain events, just like what you were talking about, the sudden market crash. You were glad you could get out when you had the opportunity. In fact, this year happens to be a unique year in that capital gains is going away. So there is a tremendous liquidity in the A&D market right now. Because of that, people want to go ahead, sell out, take the money off the table because of capital gains, because it's going away next year. So
it'll go from 20 to 15 to 20. 15 to 20.
I just want to quickly follow on what Paula just said. I think I'm really along the same line. Is when you start a business, if you put so much attention and effort to look at how to exit, I think it will be really distracting. So our experience, I think I mentioned, our first startup business, we didn't have to go through the normal process. I didn't say, we don't have to raise the fund. We did, but it's not, we didn't have to go through the normal process of going through the angel board on the private equity, any of those funding. But our business actually, after a few years, we didn't even think about, wanted to sell the business. We had the suitors came to us, say, this business, what we think we can, we really feel that's a value, and so, people will come to you. And in our own case, in the first business, and after 10, 20 different lunch meetings, then you change your ideas. Well, maybe we can sell this business that can form the other business. Another point is that when we say sustainability, that sustainability is not fixed. It's a moving target as well. Has to really constantly revisit your strategy, revisit the viability of the business, whether if it's technology focused, whether you look at the technology is changing all the time. Particularly going forward, you're going to change even faster. Life cycle will be very short. So you really look at it, really sustainability is really a moving target, whether it's not because you funded a business which is viable, sustainable, then you will be 5 years later will be sustainable. So that's another thing, is really that's why the entrepreneurship is the main thing you have to define is a continuous value addition and value building. As I said, in the beginning, that's really what entrepreneurship is.
Tom, please.
I think that same thought resonated with me too, and only I had struck a different chord. I guess I'm still a teacher. I wished our students were here, because this would be a great board for our students. The young entrepreneur doesn't know these things, has not been through the experiences. And the words that you select are very important, whether you call it an exit strategy or the end game, or because they may end up building a job and not a business, which is a trap in the long run. Whether it's a family business or an invested business. So I like the phrase sustainable business. And I think that would be a very important message for our students. Now, how do we get it to them?
But by the way, along those lines, one thing I think that academia can do is to teach how you value a business.
Oh, yeah.
Value is associated with projections into the future. I mean, any stock value is the present value of the future stock out to infinity.
I would rather teach them how to get their bright idea into reality. How do you take that idea? Where do you find the money? How do you use your basic structure of you don't we run into several businesses where they think they have a bright idea, they get money, and they spend it. They spend it on first-class tickets in the Hyatt Regency.
Oh, there's so much for them to learn. I mean, you could teach one course, and Walt could teach a different one.
But you need to learn that you can say, no, I don't need that yet. That's where your growth, where your sustainability, where your value added goes. When you get bigger, he had the reputation in the company as being the cheapest man in the company. How can I get to there where I need to fly quicker and cheaper? And it was a challenge for some of the senior staff to try
I used to stay at Night's Inn, $19 a night or something. And finally, when I took my head of HR along with me on one of the trips, and when she got propositioned in the parking lot, I said, "That's it. We got to go to more expensive places." Okay, I learned. Okay.
But there's nothing wrong with teaching that frugality works a long way. Not when it comes to your product.
Yeah.
But when it comes to the way you run your business. And I think
which is why we like MEM, because they're teaching the management side of engineering. Cost engineering is a subject of one of our companies that we spent a lot of effort on developing for the Defense Department. A new field they had never heard of. What's a weapon system really going to cost? And you use historical data, parametric methods, and a lot of statistical analysis of data. Well, cost engineering is not something that they teach at Case Institute of Technology. Or, in fact, at most engineering schools, quite frankly. Nobody's ever heard of that. But why don't engineers think about cheaper, better, faster?